Yo, what is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 471. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez,
Sup, people? How's it going?
Brett Murdoch.
What up? Wasn't expecting you coming that fast.
Yeah, there's only four of us tonight, and of course, Brian Manjoma.
What up? What up?
All right, people, you already know. Back another one. Carlos said he'll be here late, but he'll be here. No Chris action tonight, so no financials. And Adam is still, MIA. Well, he's recuperating or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Adam. But yeah,
He's in the hyperbaric time chamber, like
Yes.
Dragon Ball. They come back stronger than ever.
yeah, right. What's going on? We got in the chat right now? Logic wins. Barry Burton holding it down, and more of the usual guys will join us, no doubt, as the show progresses. All right, man. So didn't get a lot of questions, but the questions we did get are pertaining to a certain subject. So let's get into it, man. Dumeke starts us off. If rumors pan out and Xbox games go third party, come to PlayStation, Nintendo, will those who own Xbox Series X and PS5 continue buying Xbox games on Xbox, or will they migrate to PS5? Very good question. My thinking is, if you're a multiplayer guy, you're probably going to go where the majority of your friends are. Because that's been a sticking point for some people. It's like, oh, like I want to play this game on Xbox, but my friends are on PlayStation. I got to get on PlayStation. So I think they'll go wherever. It's like if most of the friends are on Xbox, they're going to go to Xbox. But for single player games, I don't know. That's a great question. If you have
Okay,
both,
hold on.
Yeah.
Tony, why are we fielding this question? Because we don't usually do hypotheticals, and this is one that's so far out there. Like, I refuse to fucking believe, and I'll go on record. So I refuse to believe they're going to just shut down their console division and go full service overnight like that. Like, that shit is not gonna happen. I don't know where people are getting the idea that they're gonna stop making consoles, but like, I don't see that shit happening. Like, I can't see that happening in any world. Like, do you really?
I don't know, but I will say this though: we have answers. Even though, yes, I technically don't like hypotheticals, we have answered those before. Like, hey, if Sega were still around, what games do you want them to make? We've fielded questions like that before. So this one isn't out of left field.
I just want to put the pin in this thing as like wildly hypothetical because like I feel you and like I understand. I mean, I just want to get this out of the way. Like, look. There's a book I read in Sword of Truth series. The first book is named after this, and it brings up a really good point. It's called The Wizard's First Rule. And the Wizard's first rule is that people are stupid. They will believe things that they want to believe and things that they are afraid to believe. And this is fucking both of those things. You have one side that wants to believe this and one side that's afraid to believe this. That's where the substantiation for this rumor is coming from. Like, I really don't see. Because here's the thing, if they did that, if they're like, hey, all of our games are just now going to become to every console, like they are shooting themselves in the foot. And I know this is the company that did the Kinect, and they are perfectly capable of shooting themselves in the foot, but like this would be a blunder well beyond that. They would be tying the noose for this generation of consoles for the rest of the generation. And probably beyond that. They would also damage their brand with their longtime fans irreparably.
So do you think, and I'm really glad you're bringing this up. So because you're saying that, do you believe that the people who are upset over this potentially happening are justified?
No. I think that they're hitting that Wizard's first rule. They're either afraid that it's going to happen or they want it to happen. I don't think that there's a lot of justification for this, to be quite frank. Like, I foresee, yes, Xbox would love to get Game Pass on PlayStation, and like the reactions to that would be super interesting. Some people would say it's a success. Some people would cry to the fucking moon about this. Like, and I do see that they will probably have some Xbox exclusives eventually making their way to PlayStation. Like, that's not a bad call, right? Like, PlayStation does that shit with PC, and nobody gives a shit. If it's 3 years later and it's going to give you a second burst of sales, it's financially irresponsible. Like, and we may be at the end of exclusives and be it timed exclusives. Like, we may be in that world, right? But for them to leave money on the table, I can see why they would not want to do that. But if that means that, like, you as a PlayStation owner get to play Starfield in 2 years, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop owning an Xbox. So I don't want to wait 2 years for that shit to come out. But, like, timed exclusives, they're not as good as full exclusives, but they still do kind of the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but Manny, just real quick. No, the reason I'm bringing this up is, again, everything you brought up in your first part, what you said, is literally the arguments that the guys who don't want this to happen are making. They're saying it's going to devalue the brand, it's going to ruin Xbox. These are the arguments these people are making. So, and remember, you had previously said that these people are being stupid. So, which?
Well, no. But see, that's the thing. Yeah, okay. So that's a lot to unpack there. So I'm saying this is a reason that this wouldn't happen. And maybe that's what the people that are arguing that they don't want this to happen might be arguing that the rumors are just that, rumors, unsubstantiated and probably not true because it doesn't make sense.
Well, that's the problem. These guys are treating the rumors like they're a fact, and they're losing their minds off of that.
And that's the problem. They're looking at worst case, that, like I said, Wizards' first rule, the thing that they're afraid of. They believe this because they're afraid it's going to be fucking true, man. Like, and then, like, I get it. I absolutely understand, but, like, for all the reasons that you think it would just cause an apocalypse, here's the thing. I bet you there's somebody at Microsoft that also believes that would also cause that same kind of apocalypse. They're like, we don't want to do that. That's about it. Like, they have spent a long time trying to rebuild their brand, right? That's obviously something that's important to them. That would just be super. And, like, yes, it is possible. It is 100% possible that an unsubstantiated rumor about a decision so stupid that it would basically burn the company to the fucking ground and ostracize all of the hard work they've put into building a fan base. Yes, in theory, that could happen, but also in theory, Sony could come out tomorrow and say, we're only making TVs. Does it mean it's true? No. Does it mean it's likely? Not really. Like,
yeah. Well, tell those guys that, because they've been gone for an entire week.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, right now, like, to the people who are afraid, like, freaking out, calm your titties, right? Like, this is very unlikely to happen. And if it did, it would be a blunder so massive that it would be like, well, I guess this was just a terrible choice. These people have no idea what the fuck they're doing. This is Kinect all over again times 10. But the Kinect was, like, honestly, that was the biggest fucking blunder I had ever seen in video game, my entire life, in the industry, in anything. I had never seen something as bad as that. Like, we were all like, holy shit, how can you be that out of touch? And this would be more than that. So, like, yes, the company has done some super stupid shit before, but, like, this would be beyond the pale.
Yeah, Manny, were you gonna say?
I was gonna say this. Like, I feel like if this was going to ever be done, it would be very similar to, I would think, to what PlayStation does with their exclusives with the PC, where to get a little bit of extra ground off of their titles, maybe, a few years off, they toss it on a PlayStation or a Switch. I mean, that's what happened with Cuphead. That's what happened with Ori and the Blind Forest. So I could see a light version of this happening. In other words, to get whether it's to get a little bit more revenue, get some revenue out of their titles, they probably, a few years off, they throw it on a PlayStation or a thing. But I would say the version of this, again, hypothetical, I would say the version of this would be like this. Okay, they somehow managed to get a Game Pass to run on PlayStation. They get it to run on Switch, right? The only place that you can get those titles day one is on the what do they call it, on the service.
Thank you.
But
if you ever want to buy them, you'll have to wait maybe a year.
And so. Also on top of that, because I've spoken about this too, also it would be a heavily curated Xbox Game Pass where it would only be Xbox games, because Sony's not going to let third-party games on there, And also,
it would only be Yeah, it would be. It would be like, in other words, a PlayStation version of Game Pass and a Switch version of Game Pass wouldn't have all those games that were all made deals of. So like, you wouldn't have all the EA games because a lot of the EA games already run on there.
Yeah.
You'll have a bunch of. In other words, you won't have repeats. Of certain games running on there. You would only have the Xbox exclusives on there.
Yeah, and then just to throw another thing, I literally just thought about this now as we're talking, right? What if, just to gimp it a little, you can't download those games? It's just Xbox
Yeah,
Game
it
Pass
only
streaming.
it only
That's
exists. It
That
only
could work.
exists
That could work
as a stream.
Yeah,
or
because that's how
whatever.
you incentivize. Like, oh, you want to play these games locally? You got to buy the Xbox. So that could, if again, we're just theorizing here.
Theorizing, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it would, because you're right. It would be bad, because again, that's what the question is kind of posing. It's like, if you own both systems, why are you getting the games on Xbox over
I would say,
PlayStation?
why would you want to? Why would you want to stick with an Xbox? But I mean, at the same time, like, a lot of those games are all offered on PC.
Yeah, and also, real quick. Also, we're already seeing the scenario with third-party games. If you own an Xbox and a PlayStation, you have to be like, okay, do I get Madden on PlayStation or do I get it on Xbox? People already have to make these choices anyway. With third parties. Go ahead, Brett.
I'm just curious why you said, like, why would I, if I can get it on PlayStation and Xbox, why would I get it on Xbox?
Or vice versa. Or vice versa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, the two consoles are almost identical.
Yeah, they're identical.
With Xbox being more powerful. If you are theoretically want to get into the weeds, you probably should get the Xbox version over the PlayStation version.
Yeah. And like I said,
I think it comes down to UI almost.
Yeah, that's another one. For Adam, definitely would come down to UI.
Oh no, dude, that's the thing that puts me on the Xbox 80% of the time is the UI, the suspension feature, and the fact that, like, when my power, if something happens in my power, like during a storm, we've been having a lot of winter storms, my PlayStation freaks the fuck out every time, threatens me with corrupt memory, doesn't work right for a little bit. Like, it's just stupid. The Xbox, it doesn't have a sleep or off mode. It just kind of turns off, saves everything exactly where it was, and then boots up exactly in the same place. So, like, it has all the benefits of turning off, but also sleep. I have no idea what kind of fucking sorcery that shit is, but like, so like, yeah, the UI, the suspension, and the fact that I'm not gonna lose my game if the power flickers, like, puts me on Xbox 80% of the time. Which is weird because, like,
you answer the question, Brett. You answer the question directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff.
Yeah. But again, like, it all really depends on what you're really playing. Like, okay, if you're a PlayStation install basic person, would you buy an Xbox for this thing? Not really. You'd probably be like, oh, hey, look, it's coming over there. But I mean, again, like to go back to the other part of this, I was like, I could see why they would want to have actual physical releases of these games on, in a realm where actually buying piecemeal games is more effective. Us people, to this day, people still buy Switch games. To this day, people still buy, piecemeal PlayStation games that are released on PlayStation.
Hey, Brett, here's another one for you. Controller is another decision. What if you like the Xbox controller better? You're probably
the Xbox, like, if the Xbox controller makes my hands hurt less, and maybe I'm just getting old, maybe it's artist hand or whatever, but like, PlayStation controller, like, they hurt my hands after a little while.
Yeah, so there you go. So there's another reason.
It seems a little too fat, the new one. I like the new one, but it's a little too fat for me. To be honest, I liked the PlayStation 4 controller better than the 5.
Yeah, it's a little smaller, yeah. I like the PlayStation 5 controller. To be honest, as I go back and forth so much between the Xbox controller and PlayStation 1, I don't really have a preference anymore. My preference used to be PlayStation, but now I'm like, whichever, doesn't matter to me, All right, good question there. Another one from Mr. Tumeke. This one's kind of fun. It's kind of fun because, Tumeke, you already know the answer to this one. He's just asking for fun. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being full fanboy meltdown, like on Twitter, or 1 like Nintendo fans who are indifferent because you're busy playing games, how much of a fuck do the Throwdown panel cares if Xbox games go multi-plat? I said I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter.
Not at all.
Doesn't
Not
matter.
at all.
So, meh.
The only thing that you know, I feel like it's like whatever needs to happen happens. There's no even if it happened the opposite way too. I'm not gonna burn a bunch of burn all the burn everything down because they felt it was needed to put PlayStation games on Xbox. And it's already happened. The thing about it is I think the thing about it is that we unlike other generations of players, which are current players, never had their fucking console crash and burn right under their fucking feet.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for a little bit because it's very clear to me that some of these people didn't experience the Sega years, right? So it's like if you would have gone through that, you would know what this is like, having your preferred console just burn under you. They didn't experience that,
Same thing. This happened twice to me. Like this
3DO?
happened with the 3DO, a console I was very much enjoying. Totally just shit the bed and fell apart.
Yep. Yeah,
and
for me,
started going and went third party. Then not long after that, Sega. So there ain't no allegiances here.
What's going on, Kid Shack? We're going over to make his questions right now. Brett, what were you gonna say?
I'm sorry, I'm cooking burgers. It's hard to talk and do both.
Ooh, burgers.
Yeah, I'm cooking cheeseburgers.
Nice. I'll come over.
Cheeseburgers.
I'll come over, man. I'm hungry. No, again, the question is, you don't really care one way or another. You own everything.
Yeah, I'm saying with man, like, bro, like, we're kind of like the Broncos from Firefly. Like, my team died a long time ago, and I've just been kind of a mercenary since then. Like, I'm not Team Xbox or PlayStation. I'm Team Sega.
I like that. Yeah, and obviously, Brian, you don't give a shit,
Nope, don't care at all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There
are no crazy fanboys on Throwdown. Nobody cares. We either own all the systems or own all the systems we want to own. So we got all the bases covered here.
Yeah, is what it is. I feel like a lot of people are just like, again, like this sort of cult mentality that's sort of happens behind these consoles nowadays. I feel like when it starts to become like that, that's when it becomes really truly dangerous, because you have situations like this where as soon as like even the idea, the slight idea of something of a change in what they're saying, they just lose their mind. They give it all up.
I'm gonna say
you literally have people like Xbox people that have supposedly supported this thing since the get go, saying that I'm just gonna give up. Like, come on, man.
I'm gonna say this:
you shouldn't have been playing for any team at all.
Yeah, this reaction to me isn't like. It didn't just randomly happen, right? You don't get a reaction like this unless it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? This is a fear that these guys have had for the last, I want to say, almost 10 years, right? Because we saw a version of this happen when Xbox games started coming to PC on day one. Guys were not happy about that. They were freaking out, right? And then things kind of calmed down and shit. So I think what we're seeing now is a manifestation of that worry that was initially planted 10 years ago is now really coming to fruition. And they're not happy about that because they were upset back then. Not to this level, obviously, but again, I don't see this reaction that we've been seeing for an entire week sustained nonstop with the same level of ferocity for 7 days, unless it's something you've been holding in for a very long time. I'm telling. I should become a fanboy psychologist, man. Like, I know what's going on with these motherfuckers, and I could diagnose shit too. The diagnosis is go outside, touch grass. That's the diagnosis. But no,
play the massive multiplayer RPG that is life.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I think. I think these guys have been worried about this for years. Because anytime there's even a hint of this stuff happening, they get upset more and more and more and more upset. And now this one, because think of again, like we keep saying, this isn't even official. This is all based off of rumors. None of this is official. So I'm like, okay, you don't freak out like this over a fucking rumor unless you're worried about this. You're deeply concerned about this, because a sane person would be like, okay, rumors, cool. That's it. What do you have to worry about? Nothing has happened yet. It's just on the off chance something may happen. These guys are freaking out, And this is what happens when you tie your identity to a fucking brand, And again, we talked about this last week. That clip that going around from Colin Moriarty. By the way, I heard that whole episode. Great episode. It was 3 hours. So I just watched it in little bits and pieces there. Defining Duke, but he's right. It's like basically the Xbox brand has cultivated a more personal relationship with the fan base, right? Which the other guys don't do really. Like Nintendo definitely doesn't do it. Sony tried a little bit with the PlayStation experience, but then as soon as Jim Ryan got there, it was like, nope, we're keeping those motherfuckers at arm's distance. The problem is, I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to, reach out to the fans, like with stuff like FanFest. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. The problem is they decided to do this for the most toxic, hardcore, crazy members of their fan base. This is why guys like Tim Dog feel emboldened to say what they're going to say, because he's been to dinner with some of these guys. They made him feel like he's part of the family. Not just him, like a lot of these cats. So when this stuff happens, even though it's not official, they feel betrayed. So that's where that's coming from as well.
There's a fair amount of arm's distance that you have to kind of keep with the fan base.
Yeah,
when it comes to products like that, when people start getting too familiar, they start to think that they have some sort of clout within it, and that is exactly what's happened here. That these think
companies
that
are not your friends, man. It doesn't matter.
They're not your. They're not your friends. They're you. In the end, especially when it comes to influencers, you are a means to an end. You are there to promote their thing. That's why they gave you your little green T-shirts, your little green backpacks. You maybe give you a couple of things every so often, because you're essentially fucking free labor.
You're free marketing. But I want to say this. I want to say this real quick. These guys are not influencers, though. The majority of them are not influencers. They're not content creators. They're just dudes on Twitter talking about how much they love Xbox and also going after PlayStation guys. So, so I think, the seeds that Xbox laid, growing and it's coming home to roost. I know I'm getting my metaphors
it's also very much like a cult mentality.
It is
like, it's not like okay. Obviously, people want to be a part of things, but at the same time, I think there has been nothing that has said, hey, listen, no, this is what we don't do, but it's, like, you essentially have all these guys evangelizing this sort of stuff, and they think, and there's nobody saying, no, this is not what we do. It's just,
yeah. And I want to bring up this other thing, because Zumeke asked us about this when Torrance was on. By the way, I almost forgot about that. Huge shout out to Torrance Davis for being on last week. So fucking amazing. Anytime Torrance is on, you already know it's going to be a classic episode. So shout out to him. Shout out to Riku-san 1, obviously. But during that conversation, what was brought up was the whole notion of, like, you notice how there are way more Xbox-centric influencers and podcasts than there are PlayStation, which is strange because there are more PlayStations out there. Like, if you ask me who are the biggest names in Xbox and within the Twitter community, I can name them off easy. Tim Dogs, Kid Smooth, Colt Eastman, Jess Corden, Randall Thor, like a lot. I can
Harris Lilly.
Yeah, oh shit. he got thrown in there. But there, PlayStation guys, I'm like, I don't fucking know. There's my homie J-Dub, but he's not a content creator. He's just posting, right? And there's this one guy, I'm forgetting his name, but
Greg Miller.
Oh shit.
Greg Miller is definitely a pony.
Yes, yeah. There you go. And there's
my best friend Colin Moriarty.
Colin himself. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I've noticed in the brain just from the conversation. the PlayStation guys, they're like actually real legit professionals. I just noticed that right now. The Xbox guys are mostly just fanboys, do podcasts like we do, obviously. Very interesting. But again, but there's one specific PlayStation content creator who's like a creepy, blocks everybody, goes into women's DMs. He freaked out when there was no multiplayer for Last of Us. But again, it's just, I find, just at least from the fan standpoint, regular fans, I'm like, there's way more Xbox guys than PlayStation guys. But even though there are more PlayStation owners overall. Very interesting. But Manny, goes back to you said, it's that cult-like thing. With PlayStation, that love only goes one way, right? It's the fans loving the brand. The brand ain't trying to love back, you know? Same thing with Nintendo. Nintendo fans love them. Nintendo does not give that love back, you know? But Xbox has given that love back. It's just they've given it to the wrong people, you know?
I mean, your PlayStation did at one point. Again, you said it before.
Yeah, they did PlayStation Experience.
Did essentially attempt to do the sort of fan thing, but even then, like to an extent, like they did a little fan fest, but they never did it to the extent that Xbox has done.
They never went to dinner with any of those people ever.
Yeah, they never went to dinner with those people. But I think the other thing is that when it comes to sort of the PlayStation, like they never did that stuff. The executives don't get too much into the weeds of the fan thing, but I think that's also maybe an issue, maybe a thing of how Xbox started and how they were able to get their thing. They have always been sort of that personable sort of thing. Yeah. Adam talked about this multiple times.
Larry Herb.
Larry Herb would be like, "Hey, man, I'm going to be showing up at this bar. If anybody wants to come by and we can have a drink with me." They were always trying to be the people's game console because they knew that if they got you along, that you would essentially be free promoting their product to all of your buddies and to everybody else online. It is almost exactly the same technique that Marvel did when they were trying to essentially prove to Hollywood or prove to the fan base that they're making good ass films. They will always be like, okay, yeah, we're really trying to get in touch with the comics and get all this stuff. That was all the old rhetoric, when they did Spider-Man and they did all of those older films. They were like, yeah, the fans.
Ironic that now you have a bunch of writers literally saying, "Oh, I don't read the comics. I don't read the comics."
But
interesting.
But here's the thing. And this is the constant thing. Once you hit that height, and I would say the height of for Xbox would be the TV moment. You notice that all of that rhetoric, all that personable stuff stopped at that point. But then as soon as it hit the bottom again, they went back to their old tricks again, essentially seeking out the fans again.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's always this. That is always the cycle. They looked for the evangelism of the fans, and then once the fans have once they've gotten them to that, pushed them to that point, that's it. They forget about all the fans, and then they're in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, this whole
happens
thing is
all of it,
man. Fascinating.
What's the future for a lot of the industry right now, since it's at an all-time low? They're gonna dig right back down into the fan base again, with some of these properties. They're gonna be like, oh man, we really want to get the fans involved and they have a say and all that other stuff, talking about all that stuff. And then once they hit the top again, get that trust again, they'll cut the cord again.
I will say this though.
By the way, real quick, shout out to you, Carlos. Thanks for joining us.
Yo, man, Super Bowl went long. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting with this whole
win?
stuff. What happened?
Did we win?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was inevitable, but it was a really close game. It went to overtime. Yeah, this whole thing, it's interesting with fanboys and all this stuff. Yeah, I do agree with the sentiment that Xbox has most of their influencer light type people that are more in bed with Xbox execs or people that are working around the company than the other ones. The only thing that I will say is, man, if this was PlayStation or Nintendo, this would be like Armageddon, man. Because, you know, we're seeing it from the Xbox fans, but the Xbox fans, the fanboys are kind of more, you know, are lesser in numbers than compared to the other ones. So if it was Sony, they would fucking blow everything up. I'm just I'm just trying to think of like, man, if this was PlayStation, yeah, Twitter would really crash.
I don't know, Carlos. I kind of disagree with that because think about what I said before. It's like Xbox fanboys seem to be more numerous than PlayStation fanboys, even though PlayStation users are more numerous than Xbox users. You know what I mean?
No, you're just talking about the. You're talking about the.
Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead, Carlos. Finish up.
You're talking about sort of content creator / personality.
No, I'm talking about fanboys.
PlayStation. Yeah. PlayStation has droves more fanboys than Xbox on Twitter. It's not even close.
Yeah, then okay.
It's
my question to you is, how come they're not as up there as the Xbox fanboys? Like I said, it's hard for me to name some. Like again, I can't. It's hard for me to name guys. Let me finish. I can't, like I named them again: Tim Dog, Colt Eastman, Jess Corden, Randall Thor, Kid Smooth. Like there's not really a lot of PlayStation guys on that level like that. You know.
Well, you're just talking about personality.
What about the guy? What about the guy that called you out about the Switch? That guy's a kind of a PlayStation-y guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kofi. Yeah. I know. Again, I'm not saying those guys don't exist. Look, the entirety of Broken Weapon Wheel podcast, they're all hardcore PlayStation guys, you know? That's all of them in one place. But even fucking my boy Jack Move Johnny, he's like, yeah, got it backing off. Remember, he was like the King Pony or whatever.
Well, but you see how much heat he gets.
Yeah,
Jack Moves Johnny gets a lot of heat for all the stuff that he's been saying. Because he has been quote unquote toting the line the last couple of months.
No, I don't disagree with entirely what you're saying, and I'm keeping it real. And I'm apologizing to the chat right now. Anytime on this podcast where we're critical of Sony, you guys give us way more heat than Xbox. Yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, fuck Xbox. Sony, wait, hold up.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Sony is, they haven't gotten through that much of a crisis in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, no, they really haven't. PS3 a little bit, but that's it, you know?
Yeah, and that's almost 2 decades now at this point. Shit. But the whole thing, I mean, we see the thing with Last of Us. When Last of Us goes through shit, you see how much the fervor in the fandom goes. But you know, they've had it good for the last couple of generations.
Yeah.
But you know, Xbox has been going through some shit, and you know, they don't have the fan base that PlayStation does. If something actually happens to PlayStation, like, oh, God of War is day and date with on the Xbox console, you sure as hell can't believe that things are going to get crazy.
I would love to see that, man. The reactions would be crazy. No, but I'm glad you bring it up, because you're right about that, dude. It's like, when PlayStation fans come after you, they come after you. Like I became a villain to them this generation.
Remember when you
because I dared to say, yeah. Think about it like that. The people who came after me the most for me saying I'm unsubscribing from Game Pass was not Xbox guys. It was PlayStation guys mad at me. You know, which is hilarious. I'm like, aren't you happy? You know, or anytime I even say anything about The Last of Us. Anything, you know, think about this, how crazy it is. Although I think we may need to make a distinction between PlayStation fans and Last of Us fans. I think the Last of Us fans are something else, man. You know, because think about it like this. With that same year, 2020, that same year, I said my game of the year is Ghost of Tsushima, a PlayStation game. I got shit from the Last of Us fans. So I think we may need to make a distinction there. You know, Last of Us fans are special.
The Last of Us cult?
You know,
the Last of Us cult?
You know, the last cult. You know,
I mean, it was those.
No, Kishak. You know, Nintendo fans are the absolute scumbags, because no matter what happened with me and Xbox and PlayStation guys, Nintendo guys never went. Those guys never went after my job like Nintendo guys did, and succeeded too. Why do you think I only wrote one article for fucking IGN, and I could talk about it now? Because those piece of shit Nintendo fans started tagging me and shit, tagging all the IGN guys, and then they ditched me because they were like, "Oh, we don't want to deal with this stuff," you know. So fuck the Nintendo fan base for doing that shit. This is why I have the most contempt for them. Sony guys and Xbox guys, they're crazy, but they've never ever tagged where I worked. You know, that's like way beyond the pale. You know. Anyway,
By the way,
yeah.
I do have thoughts about the Last of Us 2 / PlayStation fan crossover, but it's too controversial to say in this show. Just remind me after the show.
Fair enough. All right, man, let's move on. Still got more questions here. Mr. Kishak in the house. All right, we got your question here. Something about controversy. I did stir up some controversy. I got the Xbox fan base mad at me this weekend, and it felt right. Like I was home again. Like I feel it feels comfortable to be hated by the Xbox guys. Our original haters. The haters have been with me literally since the beginning of my career. Got them very upset.
What'd you say, yo?
So here's the question. Tony, I've seen your tweet about Xbox not being competitive with PlayStation going around on Twitter and ruffling a few feathers. I would like to ask the other panel members if they also believe that since the Xbox 360 generation, Xbox has not competed with PlayStation. If Xbox did, what years were their signs of life? Just give you some context here. Basically, because one of the things people were saying is we need to keep Xbox around because we need competition with Sony. On the surface level, I 100% agree with that, right? But then I thought about it. Has Xbox really given PlayStation like sweat-inducing competition since the reveal of the Xbox One? There's been moments for sure. But overall, ever since that reveal, as we're going to talk about later, Xbox been in third place effectively. They've not even come close to fucking matching Sony's sales. So that's where I'm coming from. You know me, I'm a sales guy. I'm like, okay, yes, PlayStation has obviously borrowed some elements from Xbox, right? But effectively, I don't think Xbox has really been competitive to PlayStation. They are competitors, but I don't think they're providing real competition. Sony has just been steamrolling them since all of last gen and now this generation. So that's the context. So the question is, how do you guys feel about that? Do you believe that?
I would say this. I mean, and I've said this for a long time. Xbox doesn't have an identity. Yeah. Like, in other words, a lot of the growing pains that they've had over the years is because the current diaspora is at conflict with them, with their previous identity as the gaming console for the gamers. Right, that was what they were considered before. You get all the first-person shooters, you get all the balls to the walls things, but if you notice, the world has sort of changed around it, where that sort of I'm a gamer, I'm a that sort of idea has sort of fallen by the wayside, and in fact, in a lot of cases, is seen as toxic behavior.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Xbox currently is that they're trying. I've been going on for years. Is them trying to essentially move away from what is considered a toxic mentality to something else, but they haven't found what that is, and the problem is the people that are still keeping this thing afloat are still a lot of those guys that feel that way. Oh, I'm the gamer, I'm the ultimate, I'm the this, I'm the that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring up with regard to my comment, like basically Sony this generation has been coasting. Right? So I'm like, you can't coast if you have competition. What is Sony releasing this generation, right? A bunch of cross-gen games and a bunch of remakes because they don't really have anybody to compete with. They're coasting. Sony could literally just release. How many times have we released the fucking Last of Us? Right? They know that no matter what they put out, they're going to succeed. It doesn't matter. And we even talked about this. Think about it. Xbox Series X gets revealed. Yes, it was hype, but a couple of days later, nobody talked about it. A console reveal. I'm talking about the wider industry. Sony, I think it was during CS, they revealed the logo of the PS5, a whole week's worth of news. They don't have to do shit because they don't have competition. Yes, I understand Nintendo's out there, but Nintendo, here's what's interesting, right? Nintendo is not competing against Sony and Xbox, but Xbox and Sony look at what Nintendo's fucking doing and copy them, But so I don't count Nintendo as competition. They're doing their own thing and being very successful at it. Obviously, under 39 million units sold for the Switch. But my large point is like Sony is able to coast because they know Xbox ain't got shit. And that
And
is bad, and that's a bad thing, because and that's the other thing people were saying, like, oh, so Tony, you don't want competition. I'm like, no, I never said I do want competition. I don't want real competition. Look what happened when Sony fucked up with the PS3 generation, and they were forced to release great games to come back. They were on the ropes. I want Sony to be on the ropes. Right now, they're just in the fucking lounge chilling, releasing a bunch of fucking remakes because they have no competition anymore. You know.
I don't do I believe that they don't have any competition. I would say that most definitely Xbox's the Xbox's competition is weak at this point in time, and it's so
weak. Yes,
and I feel like a lot of like I think the whole essentially trying to take things in a different direction is sort of an almost admission that they cannot compete on that level. Why they've gone fully into the realm of like doing a service.
We literally said this 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. We said, why is Xbox putting their games out day and date on PC? Because they're not selling any fucking games on consoles. They're not selling any consoles. So they've been forced to do this. And eventually, if they do put Xbox Game Pass on other systems, it'll be because of that. Blitz, again, I 100% agree competition is good. Yes, it is. Microsoft is not giving it to PlayStation. It'll be like the equivalent, like, they may throw a punch at PlayStation and be like, oh, I felt that. But that's about it. And again, people are saying, we don't want a complacent Sony. We don't want that. You don't want that. You already have it. You have it this generation. It's already come to pass because Xbox is not giving them proper competition, And that's not a good thing,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we don't, like, here's the thing, like, if in general, I would say we would want to see Xbox succeed a lot better because it would mean that Sony is going to be trying harder,
exactly,
to push their titles.
It's not happening.
But again, what did I say not long ago? Right now, even Sony's new console, the PlayStation 5, doesn't have that cornerstone game. Every single game that we are getting right now. All games, all leftovers from the previous generation. Last of Us, we're getting old titles like Demon Souls. We're getting all these remakes of all these old, these old titles, but we haven't for at one moment gotten anything that the PlayStation 5 could call its own.
Yeah, no, you're right.
What was it? What was that new game the one that came out at launch? What was that game? The stupid Fortnite clone bullshit, arena bullshit, whatever the hell that thing was.
Oh no, Battlestars Royale or something like that.
Yeah, whatever the hell that game was. That's the one thing that you could say, okay, that's the thing. But here's the thing. That's you could even see.
Wait, are you talking about Helldivers by any chance?
Not Helldivers. Okay. No, not even Helldivers is a fucking sequel.
Yeah, which is
it's a sequel. So everything that's coming out now is not. I'm not going to say that they're toe dips, but they're just like, okay, yeah, it existed before. We'll put it out again. But like again, like the ones that are actually genuine. Destruction also. The ones bombed hard. The ones that are and look at the ones that are genuinely new titles. They are all those stupid fucking service games.
Yeah, the only one that isn't is Returnal. That's the only one.
And that is the identity. And we've seen, what was it, 10, 20 titles that Mr. Ryan said were all these things. That was the that was the thought of identity of the PlayStation 5. It was going to be this service console because every single one of these titles is that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But it's not. But the problem is it's not working.
No.
And every single one of those things seem to be in some sort of trouble, or they can't, or they're canceling it, or they're in limbo. Last of Us. What was the big Last of Us thing that we're going to do this year? It wasn't going to be making a new title. It was literally Naughty Dog was going to be essentially attempting to make a service, a Last of Us.
Yeah. Carlos, what's up?
Kishak says, I blame Nintendo for causing all of this in the first place by backstabbing them during the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yeah, Nintendo PlayStation. Yeah, I mean, Nintendo they created their greatest rival, basically. But they created their greatest rival, but then it got to a point, it's like, okay, we can't compete with these guys. Let's just do something else. You know,
Yeah,
because
and
fucking
even
didn't
they,
mop the floor with them. You know, the PlayStation destroyed the Nintendo 64, and then the PS2 destroyed the GameCube. Nintendo was like, okay, we're gonna do something else now. You know.
yeah, I think that was the thing, and like the thing about it is that like if you create a realm where graphics, the high end graphics aren't the thing, whereas in previous generations, well, maybe not the Nintendo. That was, there was already 16-bit things already in Japan at the time that the Nintendo launched in the United States. But but previously there was the high end was the thing all the way, going to Nintendo 64 and then even the GameCube, which the GameCube actually had higher fidelity than the PlayStation 2. It did a lot of things that the PlayStation do better. Same thing with the Dreamcast. It was better than a PlayStation 2 as far as graphical fidelity and stuff like that. But they realized, like, okay, maybe instead of trying to compete with all these other companies on the graphical end, we try to think of something else that would be something else that's unique to us. Okay, a peripheral, a new way to control games, and that's what you got.
Yeah,
and the Wii U, the Wii U was again like the brand confusion and all that stuff, but essentially gave them the answer to this current version of Nintendo, essentially combining all the different aspects of all those previous things into a tablet.
Yeah. Wait, Brett, I want you to get in here, man. Do you think Xbox has provided proper competition to Sony in the last, like, 2 generations?
No, but I feel like they've been trying. I'm sorry for all the fan sounds. I am cooking burgers. Y'all gonna have to deal with it.
All good.
I feel like they've been trying. I feel like, it's like trying to fucking move a mountain, man. Like, it's going to take time. Their fuck up was so incredible that it almost just staggered them as a console maker. So, like, they had to get games. They were focused in the wrong direction, and changing directions on something that's like a behemoth like that takes fucking time and effort and resources. It's a whole goddamn nightmare to do, and sometimes can't even be done well. So, like, they went from, we're going to provide this live service, to, we need games to actually make a service worth being on. I don't think they were entirely wrong. I just feel like they were ahead of their time in a bad way. So they'll get the games, and they've been buying studios trying to get games. Like, what are your options at that point? Well, you can't just sit around and be like, I'm going to take a bunch of young, upcoming ruffians out of inner city schools. Like, this isn't a fucking feel-good Hallmark movie, man. Like, you got to buy shit to have shit. So they went around and they bought a bunch of companies, and people had bad reactions to that. But I'm just kind of also like, what you gonna do, man? Y'all said you wanted games, where it's supposed to materialize them out of nowhere. I would have liked it if they bought smaller studios and helped push them up, but I can't argue with some of their buys, so it's kind of whatever. And we're finally getting to the point where they have games, and they're like, we should get these games on as many things as possible so we can reap as much money as possible. But I think, like Manny said, like, I see this as being like a soft exclusive, right? Like, nobody's really going to give a shit because it's going to be 2 years later. So I can see them wanting to reap that, and like, they're finally here. They're finally at the point where, like, oh, they may have games, and now everybody's freaking out that their games are not going to be their games. Like, it's. I understand why we're here. Like, I feel it's kind of a legitimate fear. But I don't know, man. It just, I think that they've been trying, and I think they're starting to. I actually really like my Xbox, and probably play it just a little bit more than I play my PlayStation, mostly because of Game Pass. So here's my fear, though. Like that's y'all. This is why I'm so afraid that Sony has just banked on live service games, right? Like, there's rumor that, like, Sony's doing live service games and had 12 of them in the works. Like, oh my God, that shit would be so hard to change directions on. And it would influence the next 5 years of what their company does as a brand. And I've seen that happen badly with Microsoft. And I'm kind of afraid that that's what's happening with Sony. But, just like I said earlier, like, people will believe what they're afraid to believe. I'm afraid to believe that Sony's going down that same road, and that, much like this, it's going to take years to fucking correct. But to answer your question, they're starting to.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I want to address some comments here from Apollo Neon X. I think that's a new name. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Good stuff. Microsoft forces Sony to put millions towards third-party exclusives. If they didn't exist, if Xbox didn't exist, Sony would just get them for free. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that they don't provide any competition. They just don't provide a lot because obviously Sony's buying these fucking games so they don't end up on Xbox. So yeah, that's obviously true. You know, a lot of people were saying that to me because I didn't make that part clear.
I mean, are we not going to agree that Sony basically has a monopoly over the modern gaming industry?
Well, they do. But Brett, that goes to my larger point. They don't really feel like they need to compete that hard because they could just do anything and it'll succeed. Remember,
yeah, that's why I'm mad at them.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you said that because there's something you brought up too since the beginning of the generation. You said Sony is, being back to the arrogant Sony. No one disagrees with you. The problem is they're not being punished for that now. They were punished for that for the PS3 generation. This generation, they're being rewarded for that. Sony could literally just show up and be a success. That's my whole point. This is why I'm saying Xbox is not providing the kind of competition they need because Sony's just coasting by. And again, people are afraid, if we don't have competition, we're going to get this from Sony. We're already getting that. We're already getting nothing but fucking remakes and remasters and all this other nonsense and live service games, the laziest shit. Because they, yeah.
After Microsoft acquired Activision, I think that's what finally made them competitive. And I think Sony knew that. That's why they tried to move heaven and earth to make sure it didn't happen. Because now that they do have that, now the game has changed. Now the field is a little bit level.
I hope so, man.
It's nowhere near even, but it's a game now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I want that to happen because I think Sony is just fucking coasting. The PS5, oh my God, okay. Best console they've released technology-wise, but it sucks. I said it. It is not it's just now you barely need this thing. I've owned this thing from the jump, and it's hard for me to recommend this shit to people. There's barely anything to play. Oh yeah, Spider-Man 2, great game. It's a fucking sequel. It's like, what are we doing here? Let me stop. It's frustrating. Again, if you've been listening to the show for the last 4 years, you know how frustrated I've been with PlayStation. You didn't need a fucking PS5 for the first 3 years of this generation. Why? Because those games were on PS4. And for what? I remember when I bought my PS5, got it all set up. I'm like, I didn't even feel like I got a new console. It didn't. It just felt like I just went from the PS4 Pro to the PS4 Pro 2 or something. Let me stop. If you've been listening to me for 4 years, you know what in my rant, not only what's only, but this entire generation in general. Another comment here from Mr. Apollo Neon X. All of Sony's output is reliant on third-party deals this gen. Yeah, no shit. Because their first-party, their first-party games, as good as some of them are, I love God of War Ragnarok. I love Horizon Forbidden West. Those games are PS4 games, man. Okay, what are we doing here? And
then the rest is just Insomniac.
Yeah, but even Insomniac games, most of those are PS4 games.
They're not. It's not that they're Spider-Man.
Most of them. I said most of them are.
Yeah, Spider-Man
remaster. Yeah, Spider-Man. You're right. PS5. Yeah, Spider-Man remaster. That's PS5. Spider-Man 2 is PS5. Miles Morales. That motherfucker's on both.
PS4.
Yeah. Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, but yeah,
Ratchet and Clank is is officially the what I would say would be what I would consider the only, officially PlayStation 5 game at that point in time.
Yeah, and think about it, in 2022, we didn't get a single big AAA PS5 exclusive. None in 2022. No, Destruction All Stars don't fucking count, Blitz says Xbox has its position thanks to money from Daddy Microsoft. Yes. 360, 360, they were on the right track, and then the wrong people started making decisions and fucked them up. Yes, exactly. 360 was the fucking beast back in the beginning of that generation. The first half of that generation, nothing was fucking touching 360.
But again, what did they suffer from? Because they rushed that console to the market to try to beat
Red Ring of Death.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
isn't it funny? The motherfuckers don't learn their history. That's what happened to Sega too when they rushed the Sega Saturn to market to beat the PlayStation.
Yeah, so they rushed it to market, and then they didn't see the fatal flaw that they engineered into their console, and then what happened? It ran too hot.
Yep. All right. Next up here, another one from Kishak. How is it that Xbox still hasn't recovered from its disastrous Xbox One launch? We saw the PS3 recover during the latter stages of the generation, and Nintendo rebounded from the Wii U. But over a decade later, Xbox still hasn't cemented a foothold yet. And when I mean by recover, I mean sales in general are recovering back to their previous numbers. But Xbox right now isn't even outselling the Xbox One hardware sales wise. Yeah.
Well, that's what I talked about before. They have an identity problem.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing. There is what other than those titles from the game, what I call the gamer age of Xbox, right?
Yeah.
Other than those titles, Gears of War, what is it?
Gears of War, Halo. Yeah.
Gears of War, Halo, and they were considered the Call of Duty console, the first person shooter console, gamer console. Other than those sorts of titles, what do you see? What is part of the identity of Xbox? What do you go to Xbox for other than those two specific reasons?
Yeah.
And that is the problem. Obviously, you have it's like okay, you have your install base of previous people that were supporters of Xbox who still continue to buy it whenever there's a new console. But every single generation when it came, what was that thing? There is no thing, and they've been trying to find it for a while now. So what is Game Pass? That's the rather than trying to find an iconic franchise to essentially define what current Xbox is, they've relegated it to being a service like Netflix.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head.
What do you go for? Like, okay, out of like on Netflix, like what says Netflix now? Netflix has an identity for making original content or putting out these things, but before it was just a movie service. So that's what the thing is. I think that's what it is from what's going on right now. They're essentially shifting trying to shift the idea of what Xbox is to something else. And I think that's what they see, what they see the future being. It's not going to be a title, a cornerstone title. It's going to be Xbox is the place to get all of these things that you recognize.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's just they don't have an identity anymore. By the way,
that's what it is. But you look at the original, like when you look at the original when you look at the first Xbox, like even then they didn't have an identity until they knocked into Halo.
Yeah,
it became that. They were throwing shit at the wall like crazy there, and nobody was really biting. Like they hired the guy who created Final Fantasy after he had left Squaresoft in those days. Yeah. After he left Squaresoft to make an RPG for them. Yeah. Sakaguchi, he made like 2 games that were exclusives for the original Xbox. What the fuck? The guy, they had Akira Toriyama designing one of those games?
Yeah, they were amazing too.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody who's played those games says they're fucking awesome.
They got the guy who designed Sonic the Hedgehog to make a fucking game for them. Blinks the Cat. Nobody bid it. So they were trying to find their identity even back then. But then once that Halo came, they became all about Halo, and that is what killed them.
Oh yeah. I want to read this.
If you notice, whenever when look at the cycle of Sony, right, of PlayStation, right, when they had each generation of PlayStation console, with the exception of the 5, has their titles that you see from that era. What was the PlayStation 2 era? There was a bunch of stuff that was on there. I mean, I would say they were more third-party centric in those days, to be honest, like from 1 to 2. But they still had those titles that were still on those things. You had your Shadow of the Colossus and, Eco, and then you had a bunch of other ones that sort of said those things on the 2. Then when the 3 came along, what did you have? You Uncharted, you had a bunch of other things that sort of jumped out in that generation. 4, what did you have? Horizon Zero Dawn. You had, what was the previous one was like, Killzone and, a couple of other things. What Infamous was from that previous one too on the 3. So it's like each one of those things had they sort of re-evolved their identity and made it that thing. Ghost of Tsushima's on thing, Days Gone is on 4. You got all these titles that have come and sort of said, okay, this is what that generation of PlayStation is. And again, like I think once the Xbox, during the Xbox 360 era, you know, after that era, it I felt like they have not they struggled to essentially find that identity.
Yeah, because
beyond
the gaming,
just like
yeah,
I'm
because
the
the
gamer
gaming industry
console.
was just changing, you know.
Yeah,
like
I
you
think
said,
that's what
now,
it is.
now that was seen as toxic. Real quick,
Yeah.
Jolly Yellow Nerd, shout out to him. He says, you know, just to kind of bring your point home, Manny, Sony has strong single player narratives. Nintendo has fun, engaging, innovative games. What does Xbox have?
Yeah, like
We used to have
especially-
multiplayer.
Used to have,
Yeah,
yes.
they used to have
No, I know.
multiplayer,
I'm
but
gonna jump in there.
especially
Yes,
Yeah.
but hold on, I want to stick on that because I'm going to bring it up. Brett, yes, it was shooting and multiplayer, and they innovated on both of those. You know, like nobody got first person shooters right on a console until Halo, and you know, yes, Dreamcast had online, but fucking Xbox nailed that shit. You know,
Yeah.
and it's all based off of that. Go ahead, Brett. Just wanted to bring that up.
I just want to say they did have an identity, and it was
They
like
did.
playing games with your friends. Sony was playing games alone.
Yeah.
Nintendo was for children. That was the view. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
I
like
also think-
that's
No,
real
you're right.
broad.
You're right.
also-
It was like the Xbox 360. I mean, the Xbox itself started it, obviously, but the 360, it was like this is the console you get for multiplayer. This is again. I've told the story a million times. Manny and I went to GameStop one time, and there was a kid there who was very upset that he couldn't play Call of Duty on a PlayStation. When we told him Call of Duty is on PlayStation, he was like, "What?" Because everybody thought that was an Xbox game because you play online on the Xbox. That was its identity, you know. But now everything's online, so that identity is kind of
Yeah,
lost.
so it's like
you know?
what does it have? And again, we're having these sort of growing pains with it. So again, now what are we seeing? What is Xbox now? Well, Xbox is the place that makes makes Bethesda games. You know, they have all the Bethesda studios right now. What is Xbox now? I mean, they do have Activision and
They're
Blizzard.
the service
I mean,
fucking company now, you know.
Well,
You know,
they
like-
can't-
which is ironic because that's what Microsoft is. You know. Go
Oh,
ahead,
can I
Brett.
can I make a
Yeah, I mean,
suggestion
yeah,
as
yeah,
an
go
only
ahead.
Xbox fan here
Go ahead, Brett.
as to what their identity feels like now?
Yeah, please.
Because
What do you
it
think?
feels like they're for the gamers. I think that's one of the reasons everybody's so upset by this is because it feels like a kind of an Uno reverse card. But for the most part, their brand feels like they actually care a little bit more. And in the huge scheme of like, yes, everybody is a multinational conglomerate corporation, blah blah blah. None of them care about you as a person, but some of them care more about what they're doing and their audience in general. Not you as a singular person, but gamers in general. Like Sony doesn't seem to care. Nintendo is oblivious that I guess they even have a fan base. They just know that people buy things, and that's good enough for them. Microsoft is trying to engage, and I think the whole Game Pass thing is part of that brand. I think gamer friendly is kind of what I think when I think Xbox now. Low bar for entry, easy UI, listen to their customers. Like it's just easier and a friendlier ecosystem. It seems like a brand that is friendlier to you, and I think that's kind of where they're going. I don't think it's easy to put as much of a pin on it, but at this point, like Sony, it's getting tougher to put a pin on them. Yes, they're the single player narrative, but mostly other people are making those for them, and they're pivoting to live service games if the rumors are any indication. So
But not
their
so
brand
much
is
now.
also muddled.
but not so
What's
much not so much now because they were looking toward the service realm, right?
Who, Sony?
Yeah, Sony. Like in other words, they're considered the single player narrative game studio. But what real examples do they have of current title, with the exception of Spider-Man and a remastered Last of Us? What really says that anymore?
Yeah. They're riding their own coattails. So I think everybody's brand is a little bit muddled, but I think what's coming out of the chaos is Sony is trying to set itself up to be a premium high-end brand. Even though it's got a lower price entry and performance than PC gaming. So it's weird flex, bro, but okay.
To be fair, Xbox is also in the same boat. They're also low cost, compared to PC gaming.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely, they both are. Well, but that's why, like, it strikes me as funny, like Sony's kind of luxury branding. It just strikes me as funny because it's luxury, but not as luxury as a PC, right? Like it's sleek, it's modern, it does all the things you want it to. It's the pioneer gaming. It is the name in gaming. Is the most technological controllers. Its flexes just feel like almost Apple. Like, it is the best way I can put it, right? Like
I was
Apple
just about
does
to say the exact same thing.
Okay, Apple does that pretty much exclusively. So I think Sony's looking at Apple being like, I want to be like that. And so they're coming out luxury, like that's their brand. And I think Microsoft is trying to do
perceived luxury.
yeah. Perceived luxury. And I think
real quick. What about when this generation started? Blitz, thank you for bringing this up. When this generation first started, Xbox was out there saying that their console is more powerful than PCs. It eats monsters for breakfast. Remember, they said that.
Yeah, because their branding is they're in the pits. They're down there with you. They're gamers. They're trying to give you the good stuff, and they're trying to kind of be your friend as a brand. And, like, I don't think that's as nefarious as people make it out to be. I think genuinely a lot of people in the gaming division they're excited about what they do. Like, they get into this shit because they like gaming, right? They don't fall into this because they want to be an accountant. So, like, that on some level, there is at least some sort of passion. And I feel like that just shines through on Microsoft a little bit more. And that's also their brand, so it's kind of a twofer. So when they're like, oh, it eats monsters for breakfast, yeah, they're saying they're saying the things gamers would say. Like if they were sitting next to you down in the pit. They're your friend, they're your buddy. Like, they're putting themselves on your level. And I think that's their brand. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I just feel those are the new identities that are coming out. Microsoft is kind of blue collar, and Sony is kind of white collar.
I would definitely say I would say that Microsoft has always sort of pushed out the blue collar idea of gaming.
Yeah,
but I also think that again, I think also they're sort of trying to move away from even that consideration either. Because I think I think a lot of it can get misconstrued as part of that undesirable part of gaming these days, and I think that's what's happening now. It's not about a title, it's not about a thing, about all these other things. It's really about putting out those, essentially about this is where you go to game, as opposed to this is where you go. This is where you go because you are a gamer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All
right. Let me just point out something really quickly. Mm-hmm. Mark Cerny in his presentation pointed out that the PS5 SSD, and I love this because it comes back to bite him in the ass. The PS5 SSD is more powerful than any PC SSD available at that point in time. So if you want to sit there and say Xbox said that, it's like PlayStation also said something very similar, and it wasn't just marketing hype. It was he's like the chief engineer or something?
Yeah,
like
he's
senior
the main architect.
Yeah. So I don't know how you can get more close to the bone than that, in my opinion. So yeah, they both do it.
Yeah. And
as I said
about both
processing all over.
As I said in both, remember, because again, Throwdown's been around forever. As I said, with both these consoles, that's bullshit because PCs exist on both ends. It is not eating monsters and SSE. There's more powerful ones out there, bro. Then again, you gotta go back with Mark Cerny real quick. Remember Mark Cerny said PS4 every game 1080p 60 frames a second. Yeah, that ended up happening, didn't it?
Yo, by the way, has anyone in the panel played the Final Fantasy VII demo?
I have. Not all the way through.
This is fairly towards the beginning of the demo. Do you remember a scene where you're trying to get to a certain power station?
Yes.
You're going up a hill, and then you go through a cliff, and then you go and then you crawl through through a space within the cliff.
Yes.
Yo, man, Mark Cerny said no load times, and they still do those fucking scenes, man. I'm tired of this shit.
Well, I mean, I will point out that that Final Fantasy game doesn't feel really as next gen as they've been advertising it. To be honest, it feels like more of the same of what the previous one is. Like, hey, the characters look great in the cinematics, but when you see them in the game, like in-game, like their in-game models, they're a little bit not janky, but a little low res. Like some of those environments are a little low res. You know, you can see the sort of scene. It's almost like you can kind of see the you know, the set, the you know, the boards and nails, you know, holding the facade of a set together. I don't know. It, you know, I to be honest, I would expect a little bit better, but then again, it's also it's not using Unreal 5, right? It's still
4.
using 4.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, got a comment for you, man. This is from Jeff Gaming over on YouTube. The SSD was cutting edge when PS5 was released, and it's just not the speeds, but Kraken compression and 16-channel I/O ports. So
Sorry, my hand's busy.
yeah,
At the time it was.
6-channel I/O ports. He corrected that. Go ahead.
Yeah, at the time it was, but then again, the point still stands that they were boasting about how it's more powerful than PCs. Again, which Xbox also. Again, the point was that they both boast about being more powerful than PCs. That was the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. Brian wasn't saying that, you know, the SSD wasn't powerful. He was saying that Sony has the same rhetoric. You know, they both did. Which
Yeah,
is,
I mean,
again, it's frustrating. It's like, why are you guys doing that? Stop saying that shit. PC's gonna be more powerful every single time. Stop with the bullshit.
But it's like what I, you know, again, like I said, blast processing. It's a you know, obviously it's probably a very advanced thing for the time. You know, it gets people
for that
excited.
moment. That's what it is.
For that moment.
For that moment.
But I mean,
but
it gets
3 months
people,
later, PC's gonna kill it with something else. You know, so it's like
exactly.
Okay.
But I think that's just it's just marketing rhetoric to kind of get people to sort of like, oh yeah, this is great. You know.
Yeah. All right. I mean, no, Blitz, I agree with you. It should, you know, consoles will be outdated when they release. It should be about the games, but tell the game companies that. You know, tell the game companies that. Kishak goes, I remember some developers talking about the shimmying being not just about load times, but also a gameplay thing to separate combat areas.
Well, it's a shimmying thing. A shimmying thing is it's an excuse to deload what's behind your character. So when you it's not officially a load time. It's a bottleneck. What it really is. It's not a load time. So in other words, you slow down the traversal so that you have the time to essentially, you know, pull in, you know, dump whatever the previous environment was, and then put in the new, you know, pull in the incoming environment.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it, because again, like if you were to run, because of the fidelity, you know, even though I said that the fidelity is looking a little bit janky to me, it's still quite high. In comparison, you know.
Yeah. Carlos, I need to bring up something with you after the show that I can't talk about right now. It's related to this topic. All right, just keep that in mind, and I'll tell you some stuff.
So we got two pins into this whole show for the after show.
Pinnings.
But I will be able to talk about this pin in a couple of weeks. I just can't do it now. Your boy's under NDA. You know. All right, moving on here. Toon Medic, Mr. Michael Santiago, our boy. You know, shout out to him, man. He was at the Game Awards, you know, New York Game Awards. Making sure
it's cool.
That dude is great, man. He's great. He really took Danny Pena's words to heart. Where Danny's like, "You got to go out there and be part of the community." My man's doing it. You know, it's great.
No, that's good. Like, you know, again, like he just like going out there and sort of just trying to find those things, find the community. Because again, like I remember he said this before, like he never really had like a connection or anybody he knew in gaming.
Yeah. And now
You know?
look at him, like he's actually
Yeah.
like Harold. He's like the guy who runs the New York Video Game Critics Circle. He even said Michael is an unofficial member of the Critics Circle. That's how closely tied he is with us. He's there at every event,
Yeah.
always helping out. Great guy.
Yeah,
man.
there you go.
And he has,
Like if only more folks in the gaming community were like Mike.
man, if everybody was like Michael
Essentially, you go
Santiago,
in
we'd
there-
be in a good spot.
You go in there, like really, really respectable, just like, he just wants to be in there, be in it. Like, imagine if a lot of other folks were like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't so toxic and shit like that.
All right.
Shout out to you, Michael.
Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to Coel, man. He just showed up too.
What up, Coel?
He goes, my question is simple. This is speculative here, people. My question is simple. What will Microsoft announce this week during the business event? We'll have to see.
Do we have a date for that?
Isn't it Monday?
Well, that's the day that everyone's talking about, but I've never seen an
you're
official
right.
like it's gonna be this day. But
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Curious.
My thing. Okay, this is what I tweeted. I said, if this was going to happen with the crazy people, right? Specifically the fanboys. If things are not as dire as they fear, they're going to walk back a lot of the shit they said. As a matter of fact, you're already seeing a lot of people walking back shit. You saw it this weekend. That will happen. Or if their fears do come true, it's just going to be absolute fucking chaos.
I have a feeling they are going to come true.
You think they are?
I saw a tweet from Jess Corden saying he wasn't going to be here for a while. Where he's like, I'm stepping out.
But Jess, shout out to you. He came back 10 hours later tweeting.
Oh. I thought he heard something like, because he has some sources, and I thought maybe he heard something that it's all true, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to be here for the fire.
Yeah. So again, I'm not gonna answer this question because I don't know. Who knows, bro? We'll have to see. It'll be interesting for sure. All right, let's move on here. Alpha Chuck, he goes, I want to revisit a couple of remarks that Torrance had on Thursday's show.
Oh.
He said Microsoft allowing exclusives isn't necessarily a bad thing and might be a good strategy, which I agree with. However, he then goes on to describe a future in which you can buy a game and play on any gaming device similar to PC. With all due respect to Torrance, this is crazy to me. I do not see either Microsoft or Sony allowing this for a couple of reasons. One, no way to decide who gets what cut of the sales of the software. Current console makers take roughly 30% cut of every game sold on their system. Two, with the increasing shift to all digital future, not sure how this would work. The analogy to VCRs playing any studio's tape doesn't seem applicable. What are your thoughts? So, okay, just to clarify a couple of things here, because I know what he's trying to get at. He's basically saying if you have games come out on every console, like how are you going to divide the cuts? Again, we're already seeing this with third-party games, right? So,
yep.
I don't know the business part of it, but this isn't something that you've never heard of. This is already happening with third-party games. You get Call of Duty on PlayStation, it's Call of Duty on Xbox. So I don't know how. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like most of these conversations stem from a point of view of people just looking at console sales, but I think we've evolved to a point where games as a service, microtransactions, loot boxes, service subscriptions, and all of that far outdoes whatever the hell console sales makes up for a company.
Are you saying that engagement is more important, Carlos?
Well, I'm talking about definitive. People are paying $15 a month for these game or for these services, or they're paying for these microtransactions, or they're paying for these DLCs, or they're paying for loot boxes, for example.
Yeah.
Or occasionally people buy games. I feel like that is more tangible than the box. I mean, the whole all of the R&D that goes into making the box, most of the profits is not there at the beginning of the generation whenever they start selling them. So I feel like we're getting to a point where software sales or software transactions, microtransactions and all that stuff is far outsells or outmakes whatever the hell console sales does. And I just feel like a lot of the conversation is that like people feel like if Microsoft goes third party, like that's beneath them for some reason, which it's not. It can make a lot more money as a third party company than it would as just putting their games, making an Xbox and putting their games on an Xbox.
Yes, here's the thing. We've said the thing is definitely a lot of people look at console sales, but we've said this before, and this is actual truth. It is never the console sales that they're not looking at a console. They're looking at console sales, but the thing is that for most consoles, when they release, they're not making back the amount of money that went into manufacturing and developing it. That's why it's always, whenever you always hear like a year or two later, they'll say, "Oh yeah, the console is finally profitable," because they literally sell those things at a loss. So for Microsoft again, why would them selling all of their games digitally or putting their things on a service be beneath Microsoft when traditionally, even now, it's all about software? Always been about software. Even in the console industry, it's always been about selling that software.
And I'm just to jump on that point, and I think that's where Xbox has actually really succeeded and really benefited the gaming industry with the software. And I'm gonna name just some things off the top of my head. You guys are filling some of the blanks, right? Online gaming, right? Achievements, right? Subscriptions. Like, yeah, some of these things have existed, but they really nailed that shit. Because again, what are Microsoft? They're a software service company. They excel at that. When it comes to hardware, not really so much. Yes, they had their glory with the 360 and all that, but even, I'm sorry, I know people like Surface tablets and laptops. They don't compare to other manufacturers. That's not their strong suit. Their strong suit is fucking software. And within gaming specifically, they've done very well with that. Azure cloud, like these guys, Microsoft is the shit when it comes to that. Azure,
it's all about
cloud.
The software.
You got online gaming, all that stuff. Every venture that they've done has done very, very well for them, and has benefited all the gaming industry.
But then look into their hardware.
Hardware is it's like
there's the Zoom.
Where's the Zoom at? Where's the Windows Phone? It's like they don't have a good track record with this stuff.
The big. In fact, it was surprising that the Surface was anything, because everybody thought that immediately that thing was going to be a piece of garbage. I mean, granted, it's not as good as a lot of the other things out of the market, but at the same time, it's done better than a lot of their previous
Surface has done this thing. And to be fair, Xbox has been around for over 20 years. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. So those two things, when everything else is just sort of like crashed and burned because they couldn't get it right. So again, why would it be such a bad thing if Xbox what is thought of as Xbox in the future it's the service, it's the thing that you subscribe to.
Yeah. Even now, Game Pass is the best game service. I
have a question.
Yeah,
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Microsoft and the Xbox and PlayStation are at war. They're their biggest competitors. They fight to the death. What do you think? And then this is an honest question because I don't even know what the answer is. Do you think that the execs at Sony and PlayStation, good old Jimbo, thinks more Xbox as their biggest competitors or Tencent?
You mean PlayStation, right?
Yes.
Probably Tencent, man.
Because Tencent is the second biggest gaming publisher.
Yeah, probably Tencent.
So I feel like that's sort of the paradigm that I'm sort of trying to get to, where yes, the black and white, the old school, you make a console, I make a console, we're competing against each other, and here are the factions. But maybe PlayStation thinks more of Tencent as a competitor because they're hitting them more in towards the gaming market, because Sony wants to make a fucking Fortnite.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, why do you think they're trying those 10 live service games or whatever it is?
Exactly.
Yep.
It's it's just that thing where I feel like if Microsoft,
I'm laughing because two big ass. Are there any Tencent fanboys?
well, because they don't
man.
make a box. That's why they don't have the fanboys.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So it's just an interesting thing to think about because if Microsoft goes third party, some people might think that competition is dead, but I feel like only in the hardware sense. But honestly, I think Microsoft can still compete in a software sense. When in general, that's the most important part of gaming.
Yeah.
But it's just something to think about.
I was about to go off on a tangent about service devices, but let me not do that.
Oh,
You know. All right. Jason Presti, our boy from Twitter. Helldivers 2 looks to be a big success for Sony so far and getting positive attention for releasing same day on PS5 and PC with crossplay. Do you think this means we'll see more of this going forward? Absolutely, we will. As a matter of fact, I think with multiplayer games, you will see them day and day, even if they are PlayStation quote unquote exclusives. You know, you're gonna see them because look at the success of this fucking game. It's all over my fucking Twitter, and it's very interesting because I barely heard anybody talk about the first game. I didn't even know when I saw the announcement for this one, like there's a Helldivers. You know,
I try to tell you about it.
yeah, but no, the game's fucking blowing up. You know, so yeah, we're gonna see
each.
Yeah, go ahead.
Each day it's getting more popular. I mean, it started off with like 70K like the first day in peak players, concurrent players for the day, and today it's 155,000.
Yeah, it's
which
growing.
is it's getting, man, it's going up there, man, for a non Counter-Strike, Dota, PUBG, like Power World. That's who it's competing against.
Yeah. Throwdown Show had oh shit, 360,000. God damn.
Wait, who?
The game had 360,000 concurrent players. It says.
Well, I mean,
damn.
Is that
the
true?
question,
Shit.
the question I have, and obviously it's doing quite well. I think I have no evidence to corroborate this, but I think it's mostly PC folks.
Could be.
Well,
I think
all the players are PC folks because we don't have the numbers for the console.
Yeah, we don't have the
That's
numbers
true.
for the
Yeah, that's
PlayStation,
true,
but
yeah.
I suspect if we end up seeing the numbers for Helldivers with separated between PlayStation and between PC, I think it will be majority PC than PlayStation.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think that's where the reason why this was a smart move is because I think that, again, like, I don't think the current PlayStation, the current PlayStation fan base, I don't think they're into these sort of titles. But I definitely think it ended up sounding like a very PC centric game, so they made that decision to put it out on both.
Yeah.
I think this would have died on just if it was on PlayStation 5 alone.
Oh, that's a hot take.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
We're talking about a franchise that nobody fucking remembers.
Yeah, fair enough.
We're talking about a franchise that nobody remembers. Nobody remembers that it was even a PlayStation game back in the day, right? But if you look at what type of game it was, what was it? A real-time strategy?
I don't even know what kind of game it is now.
Originally, it was a real-time strategy.
No, it was like a top-down action game, kind of like what's one like that? I have no, like Diablo with guns.
Like Aliens, Colonial Marines. Oh,
no. Aliens with guns. So it's like,
I know what you're I know what game you're trying to say, Carlos. There was a top-down PlayStation game with aliens. Yeah.
Alien Isolation?
Yeah,
Not Alien Isolation. No.
That's
God
not
damn
Alien.
it.
That's
so basically,
Alien
it was
Isolation was a survival horror. But what was it?
It was like a isometric shooting game.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It had aliens, or was it zombies?
Aliens. It's always been about the
Twin
aliens.
stick shooter. Yes, twin stick shooter.
Alien Swarm.
Alien Swarm. There you go. There was another one with zombies too that I remember playing. Okay, so Brian, that's why, because when I see the footage of this game, I'm like, okay, this just looks like a regular run-of-the-mill third-person shooter. So I guess the original one wasn't even that at all. That's crazy.
It was a lot different of a game. So I definitely think again, like I feel like the original, like they sort of reinvented this sort of thing. It was a place. It's a PlayStation 4 game. Jeez.
Yep, PlayStation 4 and Vita game.
Oh my
Shout
god.
out to the Vita.
Mhm.
So yeah, like, it was sort of like what was that? Dead Nation, right? Kind of
Dead
like
Nation,
that, right?
that's the one I'm thinking about. Thank you.
There
Yes.
we go.
Oh yes.
Kind of like Dead Nation.
That's what I was thinking about, yeah.
But I definitely think that this game, and like I think the reinvention of it seemed to be a little bit more PC centric, and I think that's why they decided to put it out.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And then
the
also,
thing was,
and also, not to mention, like like also being that it's a cross-play game, right? This also guarantee, because obviously you don't need to pay for online on the PC. This means that anybody who decides to play maybe on a PlayStation literally has a full, online environment. If this was more of a multiplayer type of game, right? You have a bunch of people already there that you get to go against
Brian, what were you
or
saying?
play with.
Yeah. So this is from, I think it's Arrowhead Games or something like that. And these are the same guys that
Yes.
made the Magica games, which for the most people that play on consoles have probably never even heard of them.
I've never
But-
heard of that.
Yeah.
The Madoka Magica games.
No,
I know Madoka Magic. I know that.
no, Magica.
Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, they're like a Swedish development house. And again, Magica was like a very small comedy type wizarding game. And when you look at it, it was very PC centric in that you had to press different combinations of buttons to get different types of spells out. So
Yeah.
seeing them move to this, to me, it just looks like Sony just managed to bag them like a nice deal where they make it for the platform as well. And
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of this is. So
mhm. Again, it's
but again, I'm curious to see what the numbers are. I could be totally wrong. Could be like, man, all
Show
the
me the
PlayStation guys are,
numbers.
oh shit, this is great. Look at this awesome game. But I seriously suspect they saw this as a very sort of PC sort of feeling game, and they decided to make that call. I'm like, all right, we're gonna release them both. I think from the question or whatever like that, I think it'll be, as Microsoft also said, it'll be a case by case basis.
Yep.
Some games you will never see a God of War or a Spider-Man or Ghost of Tsushima or any of those big cornerstone PlayStation titles get a simultaneous release.
Yeah, no way.
But you will see something like a low key title like Helldivers get one, especially if it seems like it might feel somewhat PC-ish, might be too conducive to PC.
I heavily disagree with that statement.
Uh-oh.
And the reason is because of Helldivers. Again, I've been saying that as Manny put it, like that is the ideal, but at the same time, like we all know that the one thing that makes people change their mind is money. So if all it takes is one or two games that release simultaneously and then they make good money, and then people will turn around and say, hey, this makes money, let's go ahead and do that. And that's all it's going to take. And looking at the numbers, Helldivers is the most successful PlayStation published game on PC. So beating out God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, all of them. Like, it doesn't even compare. And all it takes is someone just saying, hey, this one game we released at the same time is beating out all the other games we released 3-4 years later. Why not just do that?
I think it'll.
How much is Helldivers?
Real quick. I think Brian. I think that's not going to happen with like single player games. Multiplayer, absolutely, it's going to keep happening because because you wouldn't get these kind of numbers if it was a single player game. The only reason this game is blowing up like that is because multiplayer, you get a lot of people in there. If it's single player, there's not that sense of community that everybody's playing together and shit. So that's why I don't think you're saying that.
How much is
let me
Helldivers?
finish. And as Jim Ryan himself has said, obviously things have changed. He said they don't want to devalue their games like that, their main core games. But I really think you're not going to get those kind of numbers from a single player game because you're not going to have that sense of everybody coming together to play one game simultaneously. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Manny, I don't know how much the game is.
It's a $60. Okay, on PC, it's a what is it?
$40.
How much
It's $40.
Is it 40?
It's 40.
It's $40
Yeah.
on PC. How much is it on PlayStation?
Probably 60. Without having
I'll
it.
check
We
it
should
out.
verify that. We should verify that.
Well, I'm saying probably 60 because, again, if it's 40 on PC, 60 makes sense.
$40. Preston says.
It is $40. Yep.
Oh, okay, $40 across the
Okay,
board.
so you have a decent price point, and you have a and you put it on a plate. You put it in a place that has a healthier online thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that there's a lot of positives working on here. Obviously, this game was not like even just judging by the price point on it. It is something that Sony didn't see as something that was going to be like see as something that's going to be instant gangbusters. To be honest, this is why they made this decision. So, well, here's the thing. Like, does that mean that now we're going to see a drastic price change in some of their titles? I don't know.
I doubt that.
Probably not.
I don't think so. I think they saw this as like a I'm not going to say throwaway title, but as a title that they could stand to do something like this to. I don't think they're going to do it to anything. But then again, she'll see. But again, it's a $40 game on who seems to be a little bit more PC feel more PC centric than PlayStation centric, and it was obvious. It was a good choice to make to do it double release.
I still feel like you guys have not said anything against the monetary aspect of it. In that, again, these are all logical, reasonable arguments, but at the same time, we all know that it's they all care about is the money. And if they see the money, say, if they see the line go up, they want that.
I don't disagree with
think-
I don't disagree with your basic premise, but they need to do a field test with a single player game first. And if that blows up, then I'll say yes. But they're not going to chance it with any of their big games. Not at first. They need to chance it with something smaller. Then if you see the money, then they'll go for it. Because you're right. At the end of the day, they do want money. And this is proven that multiplayer games will absolutely work, but they need to test it on something smaller. They're not going to do it on God of War.
I will mention this. If there's one of two companies in this world that is really heavily dependent on console sales, and that's Nintendo and PlayStation.
Yeah, that's the other reason.
And they have to give people a reason to buy their console. So if God of War Ragnarok or God of War 3 or whatever the next one comes out is also available on PC, Steam, then it gives people less of an opportunity to get it. Whether it'll be more beneficial is to be seen. But also they want to sell more systems, and they want to make the margins of selling games on their system as opposed to selling them on Steam where they get a cut. I do agree with multiplayer because PlayStation, I feel like they understand that the majority of their fan base is not multiplayer centric like they are on Steam or Xbox. So they need to get these types of games on Steam. So people on Steam, people on PC are way better at advertising video games than the Sony community is.
True.
Because these people get on Steam, stream on Twitch. They know how to stream on Twitch better than PlayStation people, and that's how things get. That's how the ball gets rolling. But as far as Spider-Man and God of War and all these games, I just feel like Sony believes that there's a lot more upside with trying to sell consoles to play those games as opposed to making an extra profit from another avenue that they're going to make anyway in a year or two after the game is out.
Yeah, Brian, what do you think about that? The fact that they don't want to cannibalize their console sales.
Again, they are just saying that because of the money aspect. So again, that's why I keep saying if they see the line go up, then that's it. And that's why I say like all it takes is one or two, and then they'll see, if money's there and they make more money than they would have predicted, then they would.
What about about the reverse, Brian? If they see the line go down in console sales because of that,
I think they'll look at it in terms of overall profit. And I think that's, again, I am trying to think of it from the lens of the corporate side of things, not from the consumer side of things.
Yeah,
And
so am
again,
I. So am I. And I'm like, why would I want to hurt my console sales when that's the thing that brings me the most money? Sony. Yeah, because so that's the
Again,
corporate side, and then
issues-
and then the consumer side. I'm speaking for
Yeah,
myself
and-
right now, Brian. If I
I got
knew,
one.
if I
I got it.
no, real quick, if I knew that PS6 games are coming to PC day one, why the fuck would I buy a PS6?
Tony. Helldivers 2. You're playing it on PlayStation console, right? Not you particularly.
me.
I'm just
Fuck
saying
that. I'm not playing
the
that.
theoretical you is playing it on PlayStation. How the hell are you playing it online?
I don't understand the question.
You're playing
You gotta
Helldivers 2.
pay a subscription.
You gotta pay. Oh yeah. Oh yes. You're right. You don't got to do that on PC, do you? It's a good point. But yeah.
But there's also
go
that
ahead.
there's that benefit as well.
Yeah, but I don't see Sony hurting their console sales. So that's where they make a lot of their money. And remember, you know how we always said Microsoft is primarily a software, company. What is Sony? Hardware company. So they're not going to fuck around with that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, like I definitely think that this in its actuality is more of a essentially realizing the space that they're looking to attract, and again making that decision on a smaller game. Obviously it is considered a AAA game, but it is a $40 game that they just made this decision on.
Yeah, but
Brian,
at the same time, real quick, Manny, because remember, they own Destiny, right? If the next Destiny comes out, I guarantee you that's going to be on PC day one as well, because it's a multiplayer game.
Well, no, they've already said that game's not going any. That's not going
true.
anywhere.
That's true. Yeah, but I think even if it's a big, I know this is an oxymoron. Sony doesn't really have these, but if it's a big multiplayer game, they will absolutely put it on PC day one.
Well, no, I think the thing about it is that the one thing about having it on PC is you're guaranteed to have not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed, but you have a better chance of having more active online players on that game.
Yeah.
And that's probably the worst thing that you could have for a mostly online type of game. If you have it, some people have invested in it, and you can barely find any players.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Carlos.
So, Brian, I know this is anecdotal, so I will preface this whole thing with saying that. But if PlayStation decides to put their games day and date on Steam, most, if not all, of the cast is not getting a PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
I feel like that'll be a trend across a lot of different PlayStation players.
I don't think so. I still think, again, the same thing with Xbox. There'll still be people who just don't want to game on PC. Look at Manny. If
I agree
that
with Brian.
happens,
I agree with
Manny. I don't think there's a world where Manny will currently switch to PC for.
but
Manny's
there will-
old
but,
school.
but real quick,
Well, no, it's not. It's a double thing because it's
it's going to be a
because
chunk
PC
though.
is-
It's not going to be the majority. It's going to be a chunk of people. Guys like me and Carlos, we ain't buying no motherfucking PS6.
I say this because PC in general is an investment. I do make have a better check these days than I did, working as a full-on freelance illustrator. But that said, I don't want unless I can justify it to my work, I'll make that investment, but it will not be something that I want to play games on. The computer is for work, and that's the way it will stay. So, I mean, is that old school? I don't know, but I just thought I spend so many hours in this space over here. Why would I want to why would I want to continue to be stuck in this same chair at play as well as work? It's the whole reasoning why I go for consoles, because I want to be away from this.
Yeah.
I don't want to always be in this space anymore.
Gaming PCs are a lot more popular with the youths. Than
They want to be like their favorite streamers.
I would also
exactly. Every streamer has a PC with their RGB lights and their ultra wide monitors. And
I mean, that's why there are RGB lights on there, because it's definitely trying to attract it. But you also understand these days, it's also relatively granted, you could also get a good, decent low end PC off the shelf these days than you used to, right? Like you can pretty much get yourself like a really banging PC for a pretty decent
You get
price.
yourself a really good laptop. You plug that into your TV. You're good to go.
Your
Get a
TV.
controller.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
But again, like I don't want to deal. I don't want
You
to
don't
have
wanna
to deal with
that.
that.
But
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to deal with Windows. I just want to be able to put the thing in there and it works.
Yeah.
Put the tape in and make it work.
And I think the majority of PlayStation people will be like Manny. I think the vast majority will be, but there's going to be a good chunk that's going to leave if you do that.
No, I
'Cause
mean,
that good chunk, and that good chunk is enough.
That's exactly my point.
You already have you already have a lot of PlayStation, the PlayStation cult members, essentially like angry that they're on PC and they look better than they do on their precious PlayStation.
Yeah. Because again, it's just speaking personal, that's one of my problems playing PS5, man. I look at it, I'm like, hold on, man. So I got to choose between performance and quality. Meanwhile, on PC, I don't got to worry about that. I get both and more. Like I'm playing a certain game right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what are we doing here, man? So even with PS5, like, again, I like it. I like the games, but I'm getting more and more fed up with the performance aspect, with the graphic aspect. Because I'm like, this fucking PC is like 2.5 years old and it's murdering my PS5, and it's probably still going to be good for a couple more years, and not to mention the shit I review. I'm like, damn, man, this 4090 is just destroying the PS5. Getting 200 frames a second and shit.
But then again, like you reach into a
but I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about myself right now. I'm not talking about the majority of people. The majority of people, the consoles, the solution.
I would also say that you are in a unique situation because, there's actually a pretty good like Digital Foundry, documentary, like a little video about essentially, anti-aliasing. But during the video, they bring up a really good number. Essentially, most people who play on PC are still playing at 1080p.
I would have thought it would be 1440p.
It's like they said it was like said it's a little over half.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, because again, this high now I'm in a fucking bubble because most of the people I talk to they prefer 1440p. Me, I'm like, give me a little more than that if you can.
They're usually a lot of at least from the number that they put up. It's like a little bit over half people are still.
Yeah, no, you're right. If I forgot, I don't know how old this is, like 2 years old, but yeah, they brought up like some stats of like the actual equipment that people use, the hardware and shit. Like, yeah, this is some low end stuff most people are using.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and so I'm guessing that's also the same thing. Like I think that most people who just want to play just want the thing that just plays the game, and they'll just buy the console.
That's why you buy consoles. It's simple,
But yeah, I don't think there will be a mass exodus of PlayStation.
There'll be a good chunk, though. It'll be a good chunk.
One thing I do think will happen was the biggest one will be the loudest one. Will be a bunch of PlayStation fans really pissed off about it.
Oh yeah,
day and date. Great. See, you notice that the PlayStation fans weren't really pissed about this one, right?
No, they didn't.
Helldivers?
Yeah, no, because
they didn't give a shit.
Yeah, they didn't care.
Because again, that's what I'm saying. Like, why? It's such a little known franchise. Not many people cared about it. I don't even think Sony themselves. I think Sony themselves was like, okay, yeah, we're going to put an investment, but not that much of an investment, and that shows in the pricing that they did for it and why they released it on both.
It's just one of the 10 live service games.
Yeah, one of
the 10 live service games.
Where it's like, but maybe they're praying that at least one or two hit.
But that brings up a slight thing into Brian's realm, where it's like, okay, so will that be the thing for the live service deal? Like, in other words, they have 10 live service games, but all those live service games get PC releases.
I can see that.
Well, Destiny's going to come out on Xbox.
Yeah,
we already know that.
Yeah, no, I mean that again, they already said that they were going to release it, but like, what's the one that's come? Well, there's a couple that we know of that are coming up, right? Like, what if?
Yes.
I mean, but Foam Stars is a Square Enix game title. It's not like a Nintendo thing. I mean, not a PlayStation thing. But man. let's say the what was it? What's her face? The one from Assassin's Creed.
Jade Raymond.
The Jade Raymond game. What if that's the future for the Jade Raymond game too? Where they said it was going to be a service game, or like an online sort of game. So what if they did the same thing to them too? Who knows?
Let me see. Haven Studios. Yeah, I don't remember if that was a service game, but I think it was. But yeah, it's. I mean, I do agree with the sentiment about these live service games. That I feel like it's smarter to put them on PC day and date.
Yeah. I didn't expect.
I mean,
that.
I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it'd be smart to put all of their games day and date with Steam, but I mean that's just me because I have a PC and I'm like, I'll just sell my PS5.
Well, man,
I don't need that
that's
anymore.
another thing, man. Like, it's fucking Steam Decks, man. It spoiled me, bro. Like, like if I go somewhere, like when I go visit my mom and shit, I'm like, I wish I could continue playing this PS5 game, but I can't. But if it's a PC game, especially if I'm reviewing a fucking game and I'm kind of like on a crunch and shit. But whenever I review a PC game, it's like, hey, keep going with the Steam Deck, or a laptop or whatever,
I would say, I mean, again, like I also say, like that Sony's or PlayStation has sort of fell off on that save thing.
Yeah,
like you can't do that. Like you can't like just instantly get all of your information over from your previous game.
Yeah, it's stupid. Man, I remember when I was reviewing that shitty fucking bullshit Saints Row game. It was during the summer, right? And every time I turned my PC on, this back in my old apartment, every time I had my PC on and my PC and my AC on, brown out instantly. I'm like, fuck, can't review this game. But at the same time, at that time, I was reviewing a gaming laptop. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna play the game on this, and it was perfect. No brownouts. Even though that power brick was fucking huge for that laptop,
Manny, I just went to the Haven Studios blog.
Yeah.
So it says introducing Fair Game, a competitive heist experience coming to PlayStation 5 and PC.
I knew it.
On my PC?
Bam! There it is, right there. It's in effect already.
Yeah. By the way, Carlos, man, work got me fucked up, man. Because like one of the guys, he was like, yo, I'm building a PC for one of my writers. You want one? And he told me the specs. I'm like, my shit's better than that. And he was like, I was like, my shit is better. I was like, the only thing is, I want a new Intel CPU. And I was like, but my motherboard is because we got motherboards. I'm like, word. Okay, so we're talking. Yeah, so I'm like, so I may upgrade soon. Get me like, I'll probably get a 13th gen. Because 14th gen, the Raptor Lake refresh. I'm like, it's not really giving me that many benefits. And definitely not putting in
options.
Yeah, but I'm like, I could get. I'm like, yeah, we got motherboards all over the place. I'm like, word. All right,
am I busy?
Good stuff. All right, move on.
You gotta make sure you check those motherboards though.
Yeah, gotta check the motherboards and see the power supply. But we got everything. We got everything. It's funny the other day because I've never really built a PC before. Then I thought about like, what do you need to build a PC? And I just rattled the things off in my head. And I looked it up like, oh, I was right. Cool. Because it's not as bad as it used to be before,
No, I mean,
screwdriver and thermal paste.
Yes, it.
Yeah, there's a thermal paste, but I mean, I think the thing about it is like I don't think it's never really been like, especially in I don't know, last 20 years, I don't think it's ever really been that complicated. Yeah. It's just about acquiring
unless you're that
parts.
motherfucker from The Verge, right, Brian?
If you're like I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that complicated. But obviously there are all kinds of the caveats that you have to do. Like for instance, for me, right, with my ancient computer, my computer uses a certain type of RAM, right, that doesn't get used anymore. But the problem with mine is that it uses a specific type of RAM that needs a certain type of power to it. So any piece of RAM that is in that same generation of RAM that I buy that's over it will not recognize any of that RAM.
TDP,
yeah. So I had to make sure. Yeah. So that was a thing. I remember years ago you gave me some new RAM which was the same as mine.
Yeah.
But it was useless on my computer because even though it's the same generation of RAM, the power was slightly off. on it.
All right.
So
good.
there's things
Yeah.
like that you have to sort of be wary of. But again, like there's a bunch of different places that you can look up that sort of stuff at.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's the tech down, you know.
It's not the Wild Wild West anymore.
Yeah. Black Metal Gamer. Been a while, man. Been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Don't sing that song.
Yeah. Since the PSP Go tried to go all digital ahead of its time, what year would have been the best for Microsoft and Sony to go full digital for gamers to accept it? I think the way they did it is fine. It's like gradual. You can't just be like, here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't just to say it, they don't just cut the cord instantly. You gotta allow people the time to sort of mentally get into that space. You know, I feel like even like for as much as, you know, obviously PC had that transition too.
Yep.
Right, where essentially everything was just available online, and like, you know, then like that became the place. You have to allow people to the mental space to be, you know, the time to get used to that sort of idea. What was the first foray into digital purchases, right? Digital game purchases. Oh, you know, we put those little online games on there, right? Yeah. Put a little, They got that thing. Oh, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, the big titles are on there too. Oh, hey, yeah. You know, like stuff like that.
Yeah, so there isn't a specific year. It's just been a gradual thing. It's like, you know, boiling frog, right? It's like you do it, just simmer, you bring up the heat a little bit, a little bit.
But again, we bring up the PlayStation, the PSP Go. They did this. They did the problems they did with this is that they did it in the middle of the PSP generation. Number one. Number two, that meant that in that generation of you know, handhelds, everybody bought their games on discs. Why can't you essentially somehow you know, log in your purchase of this previous game and get the digital version? Yeah. And that's the biggest issue with that. Like there was no, because Sony was not officially keeping any sort of records as to what games that you're playing, because obviously online wasn't a thing. But you should be able to, if you're going to do something like that, especially with a like thing that already has an install base, you need to be able to assure that people are going to go over. I would say it would be a little bit different if the PSP Go was that was the next iteration of PlayStation. Like, in other words, you know, because obviously it's usually assumed, okay, yeah, you can't play all any of those old games on there. All right, so the next PlayStation Portable was the Go, as opposed to it being in the same thing. I think the transition would have been a little bit better. Yeah. But granted, even though still people will probably be pretty pissed about it, because like, hey man, it plays the PSP games and it plays the PSP, you know, new games, but how come I can't get those games over the other? And it would have been the same issue.
Yeah, you're right. Black Metal Gamer also asked us what Xbox IPs we want to see on PlayStation, but we answered that before.
Yeah, we kind of
answered that before. And then the last question of the night, this is one that we usually do on the normal show when we need to fill up time. Villa Kyle just asked us, what are we playing lately? So let's go down the room.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
I was just going to say, I'll go first since it's probably the least. I've just been playing the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. It's pretty good. I mean, it's you know, I kind of like the way that they're doing it. It's like a prequel, like a flashback type scene where I won't get too much into it, but it's like I like the way they're doing it. And getting to the story, it's a little bit nostalgic. Yeah, it's been pretty good. Like the complaints that I had earlier are still true. You have that thing where you crawl through a space and you're like, yo man, this was made for the PS5 allegedly. So it's kind of frustrating. And I do agree with what Manny's mentioned. You know, some of the environments, I don't know if it's just the demo, but you know, some of the environments do look kind of like last gen-y, kind of just a little bit popped up resolution or something. But other than that, I like the combat system, and obviously the story is really good. So I've been enjoying it, and I'm just waiting for the game to come out.
One thing I do find fascinating about this demo is you can actually save your progress.
Yes,
it's like a good 2 to 3 hour experience that you're getting with this demo, which is pretty fascinating to me. I wonder. The one question I have with, and I played the demo too. One question I have about the demo is that does the stuff that you play in this demo, being that it saves, does that mean when you get the final game, does that mean it begins after you've played whatever was in the demo?
That's interesting because this is an intermediary between the last game and the new game. So,
well, no, it's it plot wise within Final Fantasy. When you get to the first town, the first official town after you've gone to the open world, after that point, that is when you see this sequence. So it was something that's specifically in Final Fantasy VII already. So now, and this is also an integral moment within the plot of Final Fantasy VII as well.
yes.
Now, if they're relegating it to a demo and it's not in the main game, that is not right.
Or maybe it plays different. I don't know. That'll be interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I would say like, yeah, that would be very sus if they took an integral moment, the friggin', the Nibelheim sequence of what that
Yes.
gets told in there. If that gets put into a demo and it's not in the main game, yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, that's a pretty crucial part of the whole story. Yeah,
literally, they literally do a callback to it in the first game. You literally see a similar sequence. That famous shot of Sephiroth looking back and walking through the flames.
fire. Yeah,
That's that's a big deal. So I don't know. I mean, we'll probably talk about it later, but we'll see what happens.
talk about that.
Yeah. Since I'm talking for me, yes, I've been playing the Final Fantasy Rebirth demo. I actually don't plan to play these new Final Fantasy games until all of them come out. And I'll play them as I played them as intended, all 3 discs or 4 discs as they say. So I'll probably be waiting for a little while, but it's nice to see that sort of stuff. It's definitely interesting seeing that Nibelheim, which is Cloud's town, in a bigger, more fidelity than the previous one. And then there's a fun photo I took on my Twitter, which is, for those who've played Final Fantasy VII, you know what I'm sort of alluding to. Tony got it.
Yeah, that was good.
And then the other thing I played, you're all gonna laugh, but I've been playing Power Wash Simulator.
Why?
There's nothing to it. There's just like, all right, just clean some shit off. It's sort of a brainless sort of game. And then the other game I've been playing is I've got the platinum in it. Cannon Dancer. Which is so if you know the history of it, it is the second game the creator of Strider created, but he didn't make it for Capcom. He made it for another studio, and it was only in arcades. So if you ever play Cannon Dancer or whatever the other name is, Osman, you play that game, you'll pretty much be like, oh wait, this is like Strider. Well, what's up with that? So yeah, it's literally the same creator who did that game, but this company finally put it out on a console. So I'm going to tell you one thing about that game though. There is a pretty serious glitch that I found inside of the game that literally makes getting a platinum trophy like stupid easy. So the way the game is set up is that there's 2 different modes. There's like a mode where it literally has unlimited continues and all that sort of stuff, and you can put all kinds of modifications on the game to make yourself immortal. You can pretty much make yourself like you won't die if you even get hit. But that's one mode. But in that one mode, you can't earn any trophies if you activate any of those sorts of additional add-ons to the game. You have to go into the other mode where they have a limited amount of continues, and you can put certain little mods on your character, but not others. But the funny thing about this game is, for some reason, the game doesn't dump the memory. So when you do, let's say you put like infinite life or infinite whatever inside of the other mode, it's not supposed to, but it carries over to the other mode. So you getting all the platinum trophies like stupidly easy because you don't die. You can beat the game in one shot without anything happening. You can get all the different trophies and all that stuff without any sort of a hassle. So yeah, I found this by mistake, and I pretty much got an easy platinum, which I really wasn't expecting to get. There you go.
Yeah.
Good game though.
For me, I'm under NDA, so I can't tell you what I'm playing. But I think you pretty much could guess what I am playing. And I'll leave it at that. Brett, what are you playing lately? You still pal worlding it?
Yo, man, you playing Helldivers?
Oh God, no. My face is still buried in Power World. It's a good game. I am slowly committing more and more war crimes the more I play, but it's fun. I actually find myself being like, this is because this is it's an alpha. I look forward to them adding more to the game, more modes, possibly even more pals. Although I really got to say, like, after having played it for a while, pal is probably the worst word for the things that you catch. Like, it's just pal is just it's so awkward to say. I find myself calling them like Pokemon or critters or animals or literally anything but pals. It's an awkward word, but yeah, it's fun. I've been doing breeding stuff. There's a whole weird breeding thing to it, and I think that's the cool thing about alpha. Sometimes is like you get to not only watch the game develop, but you get to come back to it multiple times. Like I've gone back to Valheim several times when they've released new content. It feels like you're getting a big old DLC for free. So enjoying myself. I will probably be winding down here in the next couple of weeks, just because that's the amount of content currently at the game. Yeah. I don't know what I have on deck. I have a backlog of games, man. So,
Brian, you still pal worlding it?
Oh yeah. I'm currently in the middle of a boss fight at the moment, so excuse me if I'm incoherent. Yeah, just been enjoying more Power World, getting more into the breeding aspect of things. So that's been quite fun. Definitely got me some overpowered pals, because again, that's what you do. Yeah, it is going good. Again, I'm with Brett. I'll be winding it down shortly over time, just because it's like natural cutoff. And then I'm thinking about what to play next, and it's either a toss-up between Grand Blue Fantasy Link or something like that. Grand Blue Fantasy, I think that's the name. The action RPG game that came out recently.
Right.
No, Tony?
I know the name, but I don't really have any interest.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the former Platinum Games developer.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not interested.
Yeah, I don't know. That's next on the list until Dragon's Dogma comes out, and then that's the rest of the year, really, for me.
And then your face will get eaten by Dragon's Dogma.
Oh yeah, I'll be playing that until September, and that's it.
He'll be gone to September. Good stuff, man. All right, that's going to do it for Throwdown Your Questions. Another good episode. Carlos, do you have anything to plug?
Pretty soon, I Am Negan's going to make a comeback 2 weeks from now when the new Rick and Michonne show come out. So please stay tuned to the Coalition on YouTube or coalition.com, where we'll be talking about it. And I think a month from now, we'll be discussing another show that Tony will probably be hosting.
Yeah. Invincible coming back.
Invincible podcast.
March 14th, which means we'll probably be back on March 15th, the day after. Provided the show still comes out on Fridays, it'll be good. Mm-hmm. The last four episodes of the season. All right. Yeah. Shout out to Rich. All right, man. We're out of here, man. So make sure you follow Throwdown on Twitch and Twitter. Join the Discord where the conversations, the rumors are always popping. You can also find us on any podcast app by searching for Throwdown Show. That's 2 words, Throwdown Show. Also Visit us on throwdownshow.com to listen to past episodes. And obviously, if you have been watching us on YouTube right now live and enjoying the video, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and be notified of when our episodes go live. We go live on Twitch and YouTube every Thursday and Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Links to everything down below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you next time.
Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Brett Murdoch.
Deuces.
And Brian Manjoma.
Later, people.
All right, guys, we'll see you on Thursday. Later.
Peace out.
Laters.